on a number of the SDG targets. But however, if we look at 2030 as a target, we're far from it. You can see from the median line of 2020 that although there is progress, but there is not enough progress, particularly if we look at the blue areas, they are improving, particularly if we look at SDG 1 of no poverty, where there is good progress, but not enough of it. And if you also look at some of the other indicators, you can see that some are in fact regressing. And I think this was also mentioned earlier that in SDG 13 and 14 on climate action and life below water, it has in fact been regressing. So overall, there is movements, there is advancements, but it is not at the pace where we would be achieving the 2030 target. So if you look at the components of each SDG, we can see that the green solid bars show that this is where good progress has been made. This is where countries are doing excellent work. They are striving to ensure that these goals are being met. So it is just a matter of maintaining these areas of goal 1, goals 4, and so on. But at the same time, we can see that some of the indicators, there is a lack of progress, and there is a need to accelerate them, particularly if you look at goals number 2, where there needs much more acceleration, much more efforts at the country level. While we look at some of the advancements, the progress, we should also be mindful that there are other areas where there are reversing trends, and these are indicated by the red color, where most of them show that progress needs to be much more than where they are today. And the green, the gray colored areas show that there is not enough data or information. So this is where I think when we look at some of the SDG indicators, they do not show sufficient data to ensure that progress has been made. And this is where I think countries will need to improve, both in terms of the consolidation, the collection, in order to better analyze the information on the progress of the SDGs. So in particular here, we can see that for goal 9, where Southeast Asia has made considerable progress, particularly in terms of technology and ICT. Traditionally, I think Southeast Asia has been very good in terms of promoting or advancing its technology, as well as in its improvement for both infrastructure, industrialization, and so on. But it is in fact on the smaller scale of businesses that needs to be promoted, because in fact, the SMEs are the backbone of Southeast Asia. So as earlier mentioned, goals 13 and 14, which relates to environment or climate change, much needs to be done, especially when you look at the effects of COVID-19, where I think you have natural disasters, you have increase in in pollution. These are some of the effects that a lot of the Southeast Asian countries need to grapple with. So in summary, I think we can say that Southeast Asia has made good progress or significant progress in goals 1 for no poverty, goals 2, good health, education, and at the same time, there is very slow progress into sustainable cities and communities, as well as responsible consumption and production. Where we need to focus more in the region is again on environment and climate related issues. So with the onset of COVID-19 on the latter part of 2019, we can see that it is more than just a public health issue. There are socioeconomic impacts that have affected a lot of the activities, the livelihoods of Southeast Asia, both at the cities and as well as the community level. We can see here that because of the lockdowns or the inability of people to go to their office or workplaces. This has reduced the number of working hours, and when you have reduced number of working hours, the effect is that there will be less incomes for people, job losses. So this has a cumulative effect on the productivity of the country, which is why, in fact, GDP forecasts for a number of Southeast Asia were at one point negative, but hopefully with the easing of national lockdowns and hopefully with the vaccinations rollout in place, we will see much more economic activity. But when we look at the effect of COVID, it is also on the education side, where a lot of the schools, universities, and education centers were closed because they did not want to further spread the pandemic uh, in these areas. So as it affects schools, uh, we had to shift, at least children's or students had to shift from physical to more online. So again, this is how the COVID has transformed the way we work, the way we live, and also the way we learn. But certainly, the education sector has been hardest hit because of COVID. So moving on, when we talk about monitoring the progress of SDGs, data becomes a very important aspect of collecting the data. We can see that from the 200 or so indicators, more than half of them, there are sufficient indicators to monitor them. So we have 126 indicators that show at least 55%, with the remaining still needs to be improved for Southeast Asia. Here we can see where the lack of data, particularly in the specific goals of 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. So much needs to be improved at the national capacity. Of course, this means helping governments improve their systems, the capacity of the officials to gather these data, to analyze them, and to help feed into the world system to allow agencies like ourselves to monitor the progress. So what are the effects of SDGs? We can see that even since the last 5 years, there has been lack of data, regression in some of the progress. So there is a need to see how we need to further improve the collection of data so that policies, initiatives can be enacted to improve our rates for reaching the 2030 agenda. So we have a forum here at ESCAP where we look at progress of SDGs at the Southeast Asian levels. And from the forum that was conducted or organized last year, we realized that digital, due to COVID, has allowed us to transform ourselves to become much more efficient, much more effective in the way we do things, not only in the workplace, but also in our homes. But at the same time, when we talk about the progress of SDGs and the impact of COVID, there needs to be a change into how to develop much more sustainable solutions. And one of them is looking at sustainable finance. And here we look at finance as a means to promote the green economy, green jobs, and so on, so that this is something that can improve not only when we recover from the COVID, but for years afterwards. And when we look about discussing about the progress of countries, it is very important that we continue to support officials on their VNR progress. And this is where the voluntary national, where countries look at their own SDG status and see where the deficiencies are and where they can further promote support interest so that they can make considerable progress. And of course, environment is always a big concern, both land, sea, and air. And this is where something ESCAP is supporting member states at the national and regional level. So we are trying to promote better effectiveness in both the monitoring and in addressing its solutions. Of course, when we look at COVID, there are a number of socioeconomic impacts and how it affects SDGs, and we are helping both the regional institutions as well as the national agencies in helping to build their own capacity to address these issues. So all this information, as earlier mentioned, feeds into the regional platform of the Asia Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development. And this is the forum which is organized by ESCAP along with partners from within and outside the United Nations systems. So this platform provides governments, development partners, civil society, academia, the unique opportunity to develop sub-regional perspectives and discuss implementing sub-regional priorities, explore closer multi-stakeholder and sub-regional networking, collaboration, and so on. So this is where we exchange ideas. We try to promote the work at the national level to see how the sub-regional support can further achieve its desired goal. So this forum will be scheduled on the 23rd to 26th of March of this year. So hopefully all of you will be able to participate and attend. As earlier mentioned, when we look at analyzing, we have our own system here at ESCAP, which is called the SDG Gateway. This is where we have consolidated all the necessary information from the various SDGs database so that we can monitor its progress. We can even do a SDG profiling of countries, of all the countries in the Asia Pacific. And there is also the aspect of comparing one country with one another, or even sub-regions with one another. So this is something where we invite you to look at and fool around with it and see what sort of information you can get out of it and learn. And lastly, I would like to inform or introduce our new application, which is the National Sdg Tracker for Southeast Asia. There is a video that I like to present. Let me turn it on.
Ronnie? Ronnie, your video does not have voice. Maybe you have to stop sharing and share again with sound.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, hold on.
Go back to Zoom. Go back to Zoom. You're still in.
Okay.
And share screen.
I have to go here, right?
So you're sharing this, right?
Yeah.
Is your country on the Is your country on the right track towards achieving the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development? As you well know, the Sustainable Development Goals are complex, with 17 goals and 231 indicators. Measuring, reporting, and monitoring progress on the SDGs requires time, resources, and capacity. Wouldn't it be great if you could track your country's progress towards the SDGs, visualize the results, and create your own dashboards in just a few clicks, even if you're not a data expert? Well, you can. By using the National SDG Tracker developed by ESCAP, you can do this complex analysis in no time. It is free and easy to use, taking you one step further towards achieving your country's 2030 ambitions. The National SDG Tracker will guide you to build a progress assessment suitable to your own country's scenario. As a starting point, you can take advantage of the wealth of data already available in the Asia-Pacific SDG Gateway. Then, complement with your own data and set target values according to your national context. Finally, you can choose to publish the results on the SDG Gateway or embed them into your own reports or website. You will have full ownership of the results. Besides that, the National SDG Tracker makes it possible to use disaggregated data to make sure no one is left behind. By following clear and simple steps, you can now monitor your country's progress towards the 2030 goals and targets for everyone, no matter who they are or where they live. Access the tool at data.unescap.org and start tracking the SDGs now.
All right, well, thank you very much. So I think now we will proceed with the question and answer session. We received a number of questions beforehand. So let me see how we will go about this. Okay. So we had a question. Hold on, let me put this up. So we had a question from So we had a question on the how does the materials waste during the lockdown has affected, and what is Southeast Asia doing about it? Here at ESCAP, what we're trying to do is we're trying to work with local communities, at least in terms of the waste management system, because what we have found out is that once the lockdowns is in effect, we see that some of the communities have had more refuse, garbage, and so on, which has piled up. And I think this is something where communities would have to take, as particularly the officials, have to be much more efficient or effective in terms of managing the wastes. So here at ESCAP, we are working with local communities, governments, to better inform them of how to make waste management much more effective, to build capacity both in terms of the systems and provide them expertise in terms of developing work plans. So this is something that has been made worse because of COVID, and we can see that the problem has become much more accelerated because as people stay home more often, if they are not able to go out, I think we're used to see more deliveries, and I guess more deliveries means that more garbage, more output. So we're working with governments, communities to build better waste management systems. And I think we also have another question also related to Southeast Asia in terms of, how does South to South cooperation or even tripartite partnerships work for Southeast Asia, or triangular in a way. I think when we look at Southeast Asia, this is probably the region that has benefited a lot from the discussions or work experiences, knowledge sharing from other countries. You have countries that are more advanced, that are more developed, and we use them as champions to further educate or to further build the resilience of other countries. So when we talk about coming up with forums on certain issues, Southeast Asia sometimes, or most of the times, need not look further beyond the region, because we are very rich, both in terms of economic and social solutions to a lot of our problems in the region. And we have many platforms. I think one of the more well-known regional institutions is ASEAN, and this grouping works very well, not only within the countries, but also around the region. In fact, they have a number of dialogue partners that also contribute to the South-to-South collaboration and initiatives. So ASEAN is one of the more successful regional cooperation in the Asia Pacific region, if not the world, where it promotes South-to-South and triangle cooperation. And this is where I think UN agencies like ESCAP is trying to take advantage of. There's the platform, there's the mechanism, and certainly there is a great interest among the countries to work through this South-to-South platform. I think one more question relates to the data. Perhaps Arman, would you like to respond to the question from Laos?
Sure. Could you please read out the question so that everybody knows what the question was?
Okay. In the case of Laos, how can we handle with data quality of admin data source in order to compare with other countries?
So thank you for the question on admin data, and indeed very important question. Of course, it is difficult to provide specific recommendations for Laos without having assessed exactly the situation. But in general, the importance of administrative data is even more obvious when we look at the data availability on the SDGs. As it was mentioned in Gemma's presentation in the plenary, we have more than half of the SDG indicators. We do not have enough data actually to assess the progress, and therefore there is a great room for using other sources of data other than surveys and censuses that are traditionally data sources. So basically, in order to coming back to the question, in order to strengthen the administrative data at the country level, I would say using administrative data is the first step that will create an appetite, create demand, and also increase the investment. The second important thing to keep in mind is coordination. Establishing a system of administrative data at the country level requires lots of coordination, and therefore the leadership from the national statistical offices is critical in strengthening the admin data for the countries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Arman. So we're almost past our 20-minute time, but allow me to take one more question from the chat box. And the question is, I think, to what extent do you believe that entrepreneurs of foreign countries will play a role in the development towards the SDG in Southeast Asia? Certainly, we welcome innovation, creativity from outside the Southeast Asia region, because I think if you look at Southeast Asia itself, we're very open to technology, to innovation, to investments that promote capacity as well as local innovation. So when we look at SDGs, we can see that businesses from outside the region have a level of standard that is very much inspiring, local businesses, entrepreneurs here in Southeast Asia. So especially in relation to SDGs, there we are still in the mode of learning in Southeast Asia. So perhaps you may not see it too much in the urban areas, but if you go to the rural areas of Southeast Asia, in Indonesia, Philippines, even Cambodia, Laos, you can see that the awareness factor is not there. And normally, if businesses from outside the region can help this transfer of knowledge, helping this awareness about how to ensure that your environment is not used up to the extent where they are exploited, that you cannot regenerate. I think this is very welcome. So they do play a role. In fact, they are welcomed in the region. And certainly when we look about building awareness, it is not only with governments or NGOs, but also we try to include or invite entrepreneurs, SMEs from outside the region. So in conclusion, I can say that they are most welcome because they contribute not only to the development of the local community, but also to the national achievements of SDGs. So with that, I would like to close this session, and I thank everyone for their time to participate. And again, please look to our website. We have a lot of information on SDGs, and there are a lot of information that you can use for your own personal usage. And hopefully, by using them, you are better aware of SDGs, not only in your country, but also around the region and in the Asia-Pacific region. So with that, I would like to, again, thank you for your participation and have a good day. Thank you very much.